The world didn't wake up to diplomacy. It woke up to a sentence. We need total access. Not negotiations, not aid, not transition. Total access to Venezuela, to its oil, to the machinery of a broken state. One leader captured, one statement delivered, and suddenly the rules felt optional. Markets barely flinched, oil dipped, then steadied near $60. Gold jumped, silver surged, Asian stocks rallied like nothing had happened. That calm should scare you, because history doesn't announce itself with chaos. It announces itself with normalization. When power moves and the world shrugs. This isn't just about Venezuela. It's about what comes after restraint, about what replaces rules when strength becomes the language again. If you want analysis that cuts through the noise fast, clear, and grounded in reality, stay with me. This is where the signal begins. And before we look forward, we need to understand what exactly just changed and why this moment matters more than it looks. Let's slow this down. Just enough to see the structure. This was not a random intervention. And it was not just about removing a man. It was about redefining the objective. The language matters. Running a country, total access, control of energy infrastructure, policy goals, not elections. In this framing, Venezuela is not a nation first. It is a system that must be stabilized, aligned, and made useful. The priorities are explicit. Stop drug flows, secure energy assets, restore production over time, reduce uncertainty for U.S. supply. Notice what is missing. There is no clear roadmap to democracy, no timeline for elections, no defined end state. Instead, there is leverage. Sanctions that remain in place, investment promised, but conditional. Rebuilding described as long, risky, and expensive. This is power exercised without occupation, influence without formal ownership, control without calling it empire. To understand why this model is emerging now, we have to go backward into history, cycles, and the logic of energy and decline. To understand this moment, you have to zoom out. Venezuela did not collapse overnight. It eroded years of mismanagement, sanctions layered on decay. An oil giant slowly hollowed out from the inside. On paper, Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves. In reality, production collapsed. Infrastructure aged. Skilled labor fled. Capital disappeared. Oil, once the engine of the state, became a liability. At the same time, the global cycle shifted. Energy security returned as a strategic obsession. Supply chains fragmented. Trust between blocs weakened. In that environment, control matters more than ideology. Access matters more than alliances. Sanctions became leverage, not punishment. Investment became a tool, not generosity. And history offers a familiar pattern. When institutions fail, power fills the vacuum, not to govern kindly, but to stabilize outcomes. This is not Cold War interventionism, and it is not nation building as we once knew it. It is something leaner, more transactional, more conditional. And once you see that logic, the next shock becomes easier to predict. Because systems under stress don't break quietly. They break with sparks. The spark came fast. Maduro was removed, captured, gone. And in that moment, the theory met reality. Oil prices jumped, then hesitated. Traders feared supply shocks, then remembered the fundamentals. Venezuela barely moves the global needle anymore. Oversupply dominates. OPEC plus pulls production. The market exhales, but beneath that calm, something fractured. Because removing a leader is easy. Replacing a system is not. An acting president steps in. She invites cooperation, but her mandate is thin. Her grip is fragile. Behind her, The same structures remain, the same power brokers, the same military loyalties. This is the danger zone of geopolitics. Too much control to walk away, too little control to shape outcomes. If you're finding clarity here, pause for 1 second, share this, because understanding power early is how societies avoid paying for it later. Now comes the harder question. What is really being built beneath the headlines? What's being built is not a country. It's a mechanism, a system where control flows through infrastructure, not ballots, through pipelines, ports, contracts, and sanctions. This is the hidden layer. Oil fields don't just produce energy. They produce leverage. Whoever controls extraction controls timelines. Whoever controls timelines controls politics. Rebuilding Venezuela's oil sector sounds technical. It isn't. It takes years, new laws, new guarantees, new confidence from capital that has been burned before. And that delay matters because during those years, dependence forms on foreign capital, on foreign expertise, on foreign approval. This is power without flags. Influence without governors, a state shaped by incentives rather than sovereignty. Notice how carefully troops are avoided. No occupation, no administrators, just pressure and patience. This model lowers the cost of intervention and raises the difficulty of exit. Once infrastructure, debt, and recovery are tied together, walking away becomes destabilizing for everyone. And that's the point. But systems like this never stay contained. They echo outward, and the world is already listening. You feel it closest at ground level, not in bond markets, not in oil charts, but in daily life. If you live in Venezuela, this moment is not abstract. It's uncertainty stacked on exhaustion. You are told rebuilding is coming, billions promised, jobs, stability, normalcy, but timelines stretch, years, not months. Meanwhile, prices move faster than wages. Power structures stay familiar. Decisions are made far away. You don't vote on total access. You live with its consequences. When oil becomes the priority, people become secondary, not by cruelty, by design, because systems optimize for flow of energy, of capital, of security, and you adapt. You wait. You hedge your hopes. If this perspective resonates with you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who still believes geopolitics is distant, because it never is. And as this model settles in Venezuela, it doesn't stop at its borders. The ripple is already moving outward. The world is watching and adjusting. Allies read this as a precedent. Adversaries read it as permission. Russia sees fears of influence clarified. China sees ambiguity widened. Smaller states see guarantees weakened. Greenland suddenly makes sense, not as an impulse, as a pattern, strategic territory, natural resources, security framed as inevitability. The message is simple. Don't interfere with our interests, and we won't interfere with yours. Ukraine, Taiwan, the Arctic, Latin America, different maps, same logic. Markets understand this faster than governments. They price risk, they hedge uncertainty, they move on. Gold rises because trust falls. Bonds move because belief shifts. Energy stays calm because power feels predictable again. This is not chaos, it's consolidation. A world where rules matter less than reach, where stability comes from dominance, not consensus. And once that logic sets in, the future stops being linear. It becomes conditional. Next, we need to confront what comes after this moment. Not one future, but several. There are 3 paths from here. None are clean. All are revealing. The first is the optimistic path. Investment flows, infrastructure slowly recovers, oil production rises over years, not months. Debt gets restructured. Stability, not democracy, becomes the selling point. Venezuela becomes functional again, but dependent, more managed than sovereign, a state that works on borrowed terms. The second path is the muddle. Capital hesitates. Politics fragments. The acting leadership lacks authority. Reforms stall. Oil stays in the ground longer than planned. Markets lose patience. Violence flickers. Uncertainty hardens. This is the most likely outcome because systems resist rapid redesign. Then there is the dark path. Internal splits widen. Control weakens. External pressure increases. Intervention deepens without calling itself intervention. More leverage, more coercion, less legitimacy. And here's the insight that matters. The future isn't chosen by intentions. It's chosen by structure. When power is built on access instead of consent, outcomes depend on maintenance, not trust. And maintenance is fragile. Which brings us to the final question. What does this moment actually teach us about power, about order, and about where the world is going next? This moment teaches us something uncomfortable. The world is no longer organized by ideals. It's organized by assets, oil fields, shipping lanes, chips, Arctic routes, data, energy. Power no longer asks for permission. It asks for access. And when access becomes the goal, morality becomes optional. Democracy becomes negotiable. Stability becomes the excuse. Venezuela is not the end of the story. It's the proof of concept, a test of how far you can go, how softly you can say it, and how quickly the world will adapt. Because notice this, there was outrage, then analysis, then acceptance. That is how new orders form. If you're watching this, you're already ahead of most people. But awareness isn't enough. Stay curious. Stay critical. Follow the incentives, not the speeches. If you want the next video where we break down who benefits next and who gets squeezed in this new world, subscribe. Share this with someone who still thinks geopolitics is about elections. The age of access has begun. And now you know how it works.